Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Obster, also known as Luca, and today this video is not actually on Mario Kart as I said in my intro. However, we are going to be talking about the Nintendo Switch and the games that defined it. The Nintendo Switch has been out for almost 8 years as I'm recording this, and the Nintendo Switch 2 obviously is going to be revealed before the end of March. However, there are plenty of rumours going around at the moment as I'm filming this, and probably outdated as you are hearing this, about the reveal being this Thursday. And whether or not that's true, you will know. But I thought it would be a great opportunity to talk about the games that I feel defined the Nintendo Switch generation. And by this I mean the games that I think shaped the console, the exclusives, or not even necessarily exclusives. There are some indie and third-party choices here, but kind of the games that really defined the console on an overall sense. And you know, in the future I might follow it up with a list of personal games that defined my personal Switch experience. However, that's not today's video. And I would really appreciate if you could comment down below your games that you think define the Nintendo Switch generation in your opinion, and maybe you could give me some reasoning. You don't have to, that's up to you really, I suppose, but I'd love to hear it anyway. So the first game that I'm going to be highlighting, and it's a pretty obvious one, and that is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, this goes kind of without saying. I mean, everyone knows this is like the Nintendo Switch game. And it's quite funny to say it like that, because the Nintendo Switch, obviously, the Breath of the Wild was not actually originally made for the Nintendo Switch. It was made, obviously, for the Wii U. And, well, we all know what happened with the Wii U and that story. And so it was ported to the Nintendo Switch and made a launch title. And absolutely, it has defined the Nintendo Switch. And this slot is kind of also for Tears of the Kingdom as well. I guess the announcement of Tears of the Kingdom, really, it was announced in 2019 and then released in 2023. That was a very long cycle. I mean, I think it was the same length, if not longer, than the Breath of the Wild's initial reveal to release, which is kind of insane to think about, because over the course of the Wii U, Breath of the Wild felt like it was never going to come out, and it felt like a really, really long wait. But Breath of the Wild, you know, it came out with the Switch on launch day, and it really did define the Switch, because it was this massive open world game. This, like, the physics engine was out of this world. It was just such a revolutionary game, and the fact that the Switch was able to have this revolutionary all-timer masterpiece on day one was really impressive, despite the fact that it was a cross-gen port. So these two games, absolutely, they are kind of the defining games for the Switch era, I feel. And if it was only one game here, this would be my choice. Now, going in from another Wii U game, I suppose, we're going into Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Now, this is actually just a port of Mario Kart 8. However, it absolutely has defined the Switch, because if you don't know already, it is the best-selling, not only best-selling Switch game, but it is also the best-selling Nintendo game if you don't include Nintendo Switch Sports. Sorry, it's also the best-selling Nintendo game if you don't include Wii Sports, which was packed in with the Wii. So that was kind of not really actually the best-selling on its own. So in its own right, it's the best-selling Nintendo game, and it was a real opportunity to really get Mario Kart 8, you know, into people's, you know, houses, because the Wii U, obviously, we said this before, it didn't do very well, did it? So for many people, including myself, Mario Kart 8 was essentially a new game. And not only that, but this had the privy of being in the reveal trailer for the Nintendo Switch, and you know, people were speculating whether it was a new game or if it was Mario Kart 8. And now, even over the course of the Switch generation, as it continued to sell more and more, they even added DLC. They even made an extra DLC, which doubled the entire game. It like doubled the entire tracks. It added like a bunch of characters, even added some new tracks. So absolutely no way about it. Mario Kart 8 definitely is the second defining game of the Switch, despite being a Wii U port. Now, to conclude the big three, in my opinion, I think Mario Odyssey is, for all intents and purposes, the first proper Nintendo Switch game here. It was built for the Nintendo Switch from the ground up, and it was there at the reveal trailer, and the hype for this game, I remember it in the moment because I was there, and it was unrivaled. It was insane. Just everything about this game was just like incredible. It was going back to the sandbox formula of like Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine, and you know, but like bringing back the interesting, unique aspects of Mario. Like, for example, you have like the T-Rex in the E3 trailer, which you don't think is Mario until his hat shows up on the top. Or the fact that the original trailer starts with New Donk City, which is just so out there and so cool. But Mario Odyssey is just like, everything about it is just so iconic to me, and it is like the Nintendo Switch game that is, you can't say it's a Wii U game because it's not. It is the Nintendo Switch's first proper masterpiece, in my opinion. Next up, we're going to go for a little bit more of a low-key choice, and that is Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Now, it seems like a weird choice, especially compared to the last monolithic choices. However, I think Mario and Rabbids is such an interesting game. It's such an interesting thing that actually happened. It's almost hard to believe that it did, because you know, Ubisoft making a game for Nintendo, and it's being a crossover with the Rabbids of all things, is insane. But not only that, it's a tactical RPG. It's a like Fire Emblem or XCOM, and not only that, but it's amazing. It's an amazing game, and it's one of my favorite games on the Nintendo Switch. I think it's such an incredible game. It's so much fun. It gets really difficult, but I remember the leaks of this. I remember the image of it leaked online, and people were just like, "This looks awful," but it ended up surprising everyone, and I just think that is such an amazing turnaround for a game. So I absolutely think it deserves the slot. My next slot kind of goes to two games. I'm going to highlight one specifically, but I was going to say Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Now, I'm a little bit biased. As you know, I like Xenoblade Chronicles. I mean, I don't know if you know, but I did mention it in my intro. But Xenoblade has grown so much over the course of the system. It is probably the winner of the system in terms of just franchises going up in clout, in terms of respect. Monolith have really put their entire effort into the Switch generation. I mean, for example, I'm putting Xenoblade 2 here because it was the first one on the Switch, but you also have Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, and you have Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but Xenoblade 2 really blew up the series in a way that the other ones didn't, and so I think that it deserves the slot as a defining Nintendo Switch game. I mean, it was there since the presentation in 2017, and you know, for you know, even if you don't like it, I mean, I have issues with Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It is the most popular one. I mean, the discourse about it has you know, still goes on to this day. There's still discourse about it, and about the character design, the objectification, or whatever that is. And obviously also it has an amazing, probably one of the best DLC campaigns in the world. So this slot goes to Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Animal Crossing New Horizons is obviously coming next, and this one defined the Switch, I think, maybe the most, aside from Breath of the Wild. And you know what, maybe I was wrong about Odyssey being the defining Switch game, because Animal Crossing New Horizons was so defining and so integral to the Switch's success. In the pandemic, the Switch's sales went up so much, the software sales went so far up, and it was because of Animal Crossing. And it was, you know, a coincidence to do with the pandemic, but it was such a perfectly suited game for that time. And so this is the exclusive, not a Wii U game, Switch game. It's the best-selling game that wasn't on Wii U beforehand for Nintendo on the Switch, and it was the middle point of the Nintendo Switch, and it is absolutely a defining game for the Nintendo Switch. I think we all have fond memories of playing it. I mean, even if you feel that it's quite underwhelming with some of the ways that they changed the formula of Animal Crossing, I don't really know that much because I didn't really play any other game before it. But, and you know, they could have updated it more, they could have updated it better, but at the end of the day, it made the impact, and it's undeniable. Going back with another obvious pick, we have obviously Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This game really did last like a long time. It started obviously in 2018, the hype cycle, and then yeah, I mean it went all the way up to 2021. And this game, it was almost outside of the Switch itself. This game defined the Switch so much that it almost defines itself. You know what I mean? It's such a big entity. This game that had absolutely everyone back. You know, everyone is here. And it was just a monolithic game. And not only was it monolithic, but it would always bring back or bring in characters that people were begging for a long time. And you know, for me personally, I mean, I could go into this in a follow-up video, but my journey with Minecraft Steve and his inclusion into Smash, that alone definitely makes it just one of the most memorable Switch games by far. And I feel like everyone has that experience with a specific character. This game had so much love and labor and put into it, and the fact that it lasted basically the entire Switch generation is just, it just makes it like one of the most impactful Switch games. Now, I kind of have a shared slot here, and I think it's for the 2022 kind of controversial Switch moment, I guess. Amidst the whole Switch Pro debacle, you know, whether it existed or not, a lot of games in 2022 became quite controversial because of their lack of content, because of their performance, and I feel like the two games that really define that era, I suppose, would be, or three. I'm gonna put in three here. We got Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Mario Strikers Battle League, and Switch Sports. Now, the latter two are down to content and the way that Nintendo handled their content. I mean, for example, I mean, it's been a thing since the start of the Switch generation as well. Kirby Star Allies had this issue where it kind of spread its content over the course of a year instead of releasing all at once. Mario Tennis Aces had that, and there were a lot of games like that. Mario Strikers Battle League, though, I think is the best example of this, because that game, I didn't buy it, but it was such a beloved series that people wanted to return, and when it finally did return, it was, not only was it lackluster, but apparently it was just straight up awful, and it didn't include nearly enough content, and it didn't justify its price, and it never really did, and at its core, it just didn't resonate with fans in a way that it should have. And Switch Sports is a little bit better when it comes to this. It did have enough content to I guess justify its existence, but it still had a lot of controversy thanks to the decision to change the Miis. But it is an example of that model. Scarlet and Violet aren't really in that situation. They are it's kind of the Switch generation. It's almost the culmination of the Pokemon's generation, almost, because the Pokemon had a very rocky road, and I could talk about this in another video, but the Switch generation was quite tough on not Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but it was quite tough on Pokemon as a franchise, because Game Freak had they were trying to experiment, and they couldn't really utilize the tech to their advantage in the same way that other developers could. However, Scarlet and Violet's performance was abysmal, and it's essentially undeniable. Like, I can't deny that. I love Scarlet and Violet, but I have to admit, I have to sit down and go, yes, this was an abysmally performing game, and it should absolutely not be released in that state, and hopefully they will never release a game like that ever again. But this is like, these were all in 2022, and I feel like it really did kind of build this kind of negativity online about the Switch, kind of like people were ready to move on to the next gen. Going into the indie space, we have a few kind of picks here for the indie space here. We got Snipper Clips. Now, this, I don't know if this is actually indie. I think it is indie. This game was at, I think it was at launch. I think it was around launch at least, and this game was just really quite defining for the Nintendo Switch. I mean, for obvious reasons. You know, I mean, it was just so integral to the Joy-Con gimmick. You know, you had you could like put them on the side, you know, the Joy-Cons on the side, and you know, the characters are almost designed in a way to look like Joy-Cons. It's just very, very smart, and it's a great game. I think Snipper Clips was really fun. I mean, it's nothing exceptional, but you know, when you think of early Switch 2017 hype, a lot of the time Snipper Clips was included in the thumbnails and stuff, and it just kind of fell off the map. Now, Nintendo aren't Nintendo without their weird, wacky, interesting, gimmicky kind of games. And the Nintendo Switch didn't miss out on them, actually. It had two major ones. And the first one is the Labo, Nintendo Labo, and I did actually buy the Variety Kit. It is probably wasn't worth the money, but it was quite interesting. You know, it's quite interesting. You know, you build cardboard, obviously, into these weird little contraptions, you know, a fishing rod or something like that, and you put the Switch in there, and it kind of makes this little mini game. And I think the robot pack was quite cool, and it was like a little destroying the city kind of game. But I think what's really interesting about Labo is how over the course of the generation it really evolved. Like they made it into a VR headset, and it actually was compatible with Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey, and I think a few other games, which is really interesting. And the other wacky thing I guess Nintendo did was Ring Fit Adventure. Now this one is has a lot more longevity to it. You know, the Ring Fit Adventure was actually really good. Like, it's a really fun game, and it really makes you it's a real workout. I mean, I didn't finish it because I started it thinking I want to try and lose weight. I didn't work because I feel I was in the wrong mentality, and since then I have lost weight in a separate way. I feel like now if I played it, I'd actually enjoy it more, because the stuff that you do in that game is the same kind of things that I would do anyway. Like it is a proper workout. Not only that, it's combined with the RPG, so they're making a fitness RPG. It's genius, and I think that I'm really excited to see if they do a Ring Fit 2. I think they will, because it sold very well, but I just thought that was a really impressive thing for Nintendo to experiment with. And yeah, I mean, honestly, I wish I played it more, to be honest, but I thought that definitely defined the Switch in a big way. But I'm going to leave it at that, except from one more game. And that one game that I think defines the Switch in a roundabout way, despite not being out yet, is Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Now, I'm saying this as right before we might be seeing a trailer where the Switch 2 gets Metroid Prime 4 in the same way that Breath of the Wild was to the Switch 1 and between the Wii U. However, Metroid Prime 4 was announced in 2017, in the summer of 2017, like a few months after the Switch came out, and it's been a thing ever since. And it's just been this legendary, mystical game that didn't exist, and it was announced, but nobody knew what it was. And so I just feel like it will always, in my opinion, define the Switch generation. It has been there since the very start, and it is still here now. We've seen the first trailer. It looks absolutely incredible. But Metroid Prime 4, despite not being out yet, it's gonna be the swan song for the Switch 1. I mean, even if it's a cross-gen thing, it will still be a swan song for the Nintendo Switch, the last real, true, major Nintendo Switch game, I guess. And that's quite special to me. You know, honestly, it makes it really interesting as a game, you know, being announced from the very start and then being there at the very end. Well, that's kind of all I had listed. Obviously, there are so many more games that you could say that define the Switch generation, and I won't mention them because, you know what, you know, if you feel one's missing for a very, very real reason, I would love to hear you, you know, argue for it. You know, argue for why that is the defining game of the Switch generation, because there are so many games that define this console. That is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.